All right, and we are live once again with another episode of the AWE Digital Wellness Weekly Podcast. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Christian Dominique. Christian, good to see you again. Thank you for joining us. We are a little bit earlier than usual today for a number of reasons. Uh, at 10 a.m. EST instead of normally doing it at 12 p.m. But we have a really interesting topic that's very relevant for a lot of people watching this, whether it's on LinkedIn, YouTube, X, whatever platform you're watching this on. And that topic is building calm work cultures that actually perform. And I think it's a highly relevant topic for many industries, especially ones where you feel a lot of pressure nowadays. Um, so as always, welcome back, Christian. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Thank you. And yes, thank you for the um, live audience. We had a very high turnout last week for our podcast on leadership and calm
Hmm.
culture. Now we're going to dig a bit deeper into calm culture in general, how to use that as entrepreneurs, as business owners, or managers, and also in education, right? So we're working in collaborations with many schools, parents, teacher, organization, and wanting to understand that calm can be used not only for leaders but for a lot of different purposes. And yes, thank you for joining us from I think Stockholm today.
I am in the world's largest airport, Stockholm Arlanda, which is why I'm a little bit sweaty right now because I was running for 15 minutes across the entire airport to get here. Definitely not in the calmest of states that I've been. So, like I said to you before the podcast, very relevant topic for me especially, and for many other people. But yes, I'm tuning in and really excited to have this conversation with you as well.
Great, and it's important that we understand calm as an attitude, a mindset, um, something that we can bring with us in many situations, including
Hmm.
work, including learning, right? Um, and as entrepreneur, we know that there's so many things to do every day, so many challenges, and
Yeah.
to have that north star and that mindset to stay well, we can be calm in any situation.
Yeah.
Uh, I think is a plus, right? It's something that elevates the game instead of
Yeah.
making it, right?
Yet it feels so difficult for many people. If calmness is a choice, being calm is a choice, why do you think it's so difficult for people to make that choice?
You know, cortisol,
It's the
amygdala,
biological reason. Yeah, the
right?
biological reason for sure. Yeah. But
You know,
people have statements, they're like, just calm down, right? That's so common in our culture. Just say calm down, right? Calm, as if it were that easy, but people find it so seemingly difficult to achieve that, right?
and
Is it
also
just a,
we talked
is it
about the
just
biology,
biology?
but
Mm-hmm.
there's the social aspect, right? So people,
Mm-hmm.
the culture is fast pace, fast food, fast
Mm-hmm.
this, everything has to go, right?
Yes.
And people are not used to calm, stillness, reflection,
Yeah.
instead of reaction, right?
Maybe the big paradox that people see in the title, for example, building calm work cultures that perform, is that they almost find it not only paradoxical, but oxymoronic
Mm-hmm.
to say a calm work culture that also performs, because to perform would imply not being calm, right? You would need to be really on your game, constantly ambitious, thinking about the next thing to do. And that's not a calm state to be in. Maybe it's the fear is if I am too calm, then my competitors will beat me. I'll risk the chance of losing my job. My performance will go down, all this stuff. So somebody might be looking at our title and being like, how is that even possible? That seems almost antithetical to like getting further in my career, right? Being pushing myself. So how do you contrast something like this that almost seems oxymoronic in a sense?
Yeah, because people associate success with constant hard work, right? And we're not saying that there does not need to be hard work with smart work, action with sometimes non-action, right? So there's
Hmm.
action, there's non-action, there's pause,
Hmm.
and it actually creates better performance.
Creates better performance always, or is there a fine line that perhaps needs to be taken into account here? Being too calm sometimes, uh, apathetic, or having a nonchalant attitude, right? How do I, if I were a worker, say I'm tuning into this podcast and I'm thinking, okay, makes sense, but if I'm too calm, right, I'm just gonna let all those emails pile up. I'm not gonna answer these calls that I'm getting from clients, right? I'm just a calm, a stoic uh, being who's impervious to any outside notification that comes my way. How,
So yes, of course, everything is a balance, right? So
yeah.
the idea is to match calm with accountability, right?
Okay.
You know you have things to do and you have the big picture, then you can take some strategic pauses and be calm and achieve those goals, right?
Mm,
So calm does not mean nonchalant. It does not mean passive, right? You can be calm and proactive. You can be calm and action oriented, right? And that's how we can, explain to people that calm is a tool to help you think better, to help you have, one more pause in
hmm
your sentence, one more minute before you send that email, because it's going to be a little bit better, right?
mm.
And maybe you'll respond to less email, but every email will be more impactful.
Hmm. So quality over quantity, essentially. That's what you're saying. More
And also, if
thoughtful.
if you let your mind be calm, we're doing digital resets. We're trying to
Hmm.
help people for 25 minutes to stop their overthinking.
Hmm.
What happens is that you will also have probably more quantity, because the energy that you bring to the game,
Mm.
when you are reaching, a state of awe, a state of flow, a state of oneness, things will go faster and better. So quality and quantity can be improved by taking
Hmm.
some calm into the equation.
I see. Okay, so let's think of some real world examples for people when they're at work and normally they have a heightened stress response when they see an email notification, Slack notification from their boss saying, "Hey Christian, like, could you deliver? Did you finish that report yet?" And all of a sudden, you panic. The amygdala system, right? Amygdala gets activated. You're like, shit, I didn't finish it. I have to do this now, and I have to basically put everything that I planned on working on today basically to the side until I finish this thing, right? That's not a calm state. How would somebody perhaps in a more adjusted state, calm state, respond to a similar task like this?
So you receive a notification, you have something to do. Maybe you
Yes.
procrastinated. Maybe you
Yes.
started it, but you didn't finish it. So you get the information as information, not as a stressor. And then you acknowledge that this task needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to put things aside. So how can I make this task the best possible in the time that is
Mm-hmm.
allocated? Let's say today, right? So I have to finish it today. And then how can I make sure that I have the highest quality delivery for my boss, for my coworker, or for myself, or for my client,
Mm-hmm.
uh, or for my students, or for my teacher, depending if you're in education, right? And it's always about, now I feel empowered to do my best to do this task.
Right.
So I'm going to give my full attention to give calmly the best quality I can do in this time frame today, or in a week, or in 2 days, or in 1 hour,
Hmm.
times in 15 minutes, right? Oh, I need
Right.
to do this in 15 minutes. Okay. How can I do it calmly and do the best of my ability that I'm proud of it when it's done?
Yeah.
And then on to the next, right? In a calm way. You
You know.
deliver something that you're proud of and you're calm, and that's it.
So it almost seems like the outcome, whether you deliver that report or not, well, ideally, the outcome is that you do deliver that report. You can choose whether you want to deliver that report in a heightened anxious state, heightened anxiety state, or if you want to deliver that in a calm state, because regardless, the outcome might even be better if you do it in the calm state. But for some reason, the implicit reaction of most people who might even be watching this is that in order to care, in order to deliver this the fastest, oh my God, I have this report I need to do, that thought, the urgency is immediately coupled with a negative anxiety emotion, right?
Yeah,
And what you're saying is that we can actually choose to dissociate those two. We can have the urgency, but not necessarily couple it with heightened feelings of anxiety. Is that right?
that's correct. And I would even say that we can still have a heightened state, but it's not a heightened state from anxiety. It's a heightened state from purpose. It's a heightened state
Hmm.
from flow state. It's a heightened state of I know that I can do this task well and I enjoy
Yeah.
doing it, right?
Yeah. So that's sort of I want to share something from yesterday. I yesterday for the first time in a while I experienced, I would say, a very prolonged flow state. Lasted like 3 hours and it felt fun. I didn't feel anxious because I was figuring out some problems that I had been dealing, and then I realized, wow, AI Gemini can be used this way. Wow, this makes my life a lot easier. And then I felt like I was having fun. I felt like a kid, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out some tools. Um, I think who was it? Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the guy with the really long Hungarian psychologist.
Yeah.
He said to achieve flow, and I think there's this graph. Uh, Anybody watching this can find this online. Is that there's an intersection between your skill, ability, and the challenge, right? And if you at that intersection, right, is where you achieve flow. So if something is too difficult, right, then you won't achieve the flow state. Whereas also, if your skill level is not up to par with what the task requires, then you also won't achieve the flow state. Whereas also, if your skill is beyond the difficulty of the task, then you also won't achieve flow state. So to achieve flow state, you have to actually be at that intersection between where your skill meets the challenge of the task. And that's what makes it so captivating.
That's correct. And then there's another concept that I'm working on for my, later books on happiness, which is called craftsmanship, right? So, people are the best at their work when they are gaining enough knowledge that they're proficient and it becomes a craft, right?
Hmm.
So, and they can be challenged more and more and still feel this mastery of what they're doing, right? And it could be in work, it could be, at home cooking or playing sport, it can be in any part of your life. But when you become a craftsman, you're bringing something, different that will give you more flow state, as you mentioned, right? And
Yeah.
you're always in that challenge that is right. And so there is actually some research that says that some people, neurodivergence, depending on their biology a little bit, some people can experience different level of challenge, and then you can train yourself to do more and more, right? So some people would say, well, 5% more than I'm comfortable with is a challenge that I'm okay with. And some people would say, well, 50% or 72% more is still okay. And I will not feel overwhelmed, right? So the zone you're talking about is a challenge that is more than you can do, but not overwhelming, right? Because if you get the overwhelm zone, then the whole body and mind stops because it's not possible in your mind, right?
Hmm.
So challenge is very important, and you want to be pushing your challenges and accepting that some people have different zones, but you can always work towards more and more challenge.
So I guess what should one do if the challenge is if somebody's getting continually frustrated and that frustration leads to feelings of just tension, right? Antithetical to calmness. What do you do if the skill level is not meeting the level of the challenge, or the challenge is just too great?
Well, there are ways to create resilience. Um,
Mhm.
one of them that I've been experiencing for a few years is cold exposure. So cold bath, cold shower. I live in Canada, going for
Mm,
1 hour or more cold walk, right?
yeah.
I walk to the point that I'm shivering and my body is telling me that I'm gonna die.
You
And
walk with a t-shirt on?
sometimes, but normally still with a coat. But after a while, it still gets really cold, right? But
Oh
I've
wow.
I've done with t-shirt, I've done with shorts, right? And then your body will tell you like this is not possible, and then you continue, and then you live, and then you get more resilient, right? So that's one way.
Hmm.
Um, that's a physical way, and it's actually proven to increase a lot of neurochemical um, like endorphins and dopamine that will last for hours, right? So this is one physical way, but there's also mental ways to do it, right? So give an example of reading. Most people in 2026 cannot read.
Oof.
They can read physically, but they cannot read a book, right? So how do you read a book? Then 1 page a day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right? Same thing as cold exposure. First 5 minutes cold exposure, then you can do an hour, right? So it's
Hmm.
kind of training your body, your brain, like going to the gym, right? So we talk about mental gym a lot,
Hmm.
and it's training yourself to be an incredible, resilient beast that can do anything,
Oh yeah.
right? Simple as that, right?
Yeah. So
And
you're
when your
saying,
mind and body are there, and you do it calmly, you do it with purpose, and things just get easier as you practice.
mm, so do hard things essentially.
Yep.
Do
Do them
difficult
more,
things.
do them harder.
Would going for a somebody asked a question, do you think it's possible that someone could feel safe while being under stress and to adopt stress environments as safe environments? Very interesting question. It's possible that someone could feel safe while being under stress. I actually had this question today with somebody, is that a lot of what we feel is uncertainty
Mm-hmm.
is actually a desire to feel safe, right? So this client of mine, she feels that she needs to get a bachelor's degree. She's in her 30s. She feels she needs to get a bachelor's degree. She comes from a very strict Asian American household, and the expectation is that in order to not be um, shameful, right, towards her family, towards her upbringing, she needs to have this degree, right? So the perception of her getting the degree is what offers her safety, right? But actually, in reality, it's probably going to offer her temporary relief, right? But she thinks she considers herself in a state of danger almost until she gets this degree, right? So a lot of people will conflate certainty and safety with each other, right? That's what they desire. So the question was originally, okay, is it possible to feel safe in a stressful environment? Again, you want to make sure that we're not conflating these two terms. Um, but to be under stress could be something physiological, right? You feel like sweaty palms, you could feel your heart racing. Um, but you still feel focused and dialed in, right? So you're essentially safe, right? The perception of safe. It could be the thought that there's 100% certainty that you're going to achieve that task, right? That offers you a sense of safety, or you have a certain outcome, but you still feel like the adrenaline response, right? And so you can, and I think you just said cold exposure, but the key word here is exposure, right? Exposure therapy, exposing yourself to these environments and recognizing that this is not your nervous system perhaps perceives this as a threat, but it is not a threat, right? It is something that you need to accustom yourself to more often.
And I will add to the discussion that safe is something that people, like you said, want to have, right? So there's this concept, CSW,
Hmm.
connection, safety, worth, right? So this is a human need. People need to feel safe. We need to feel like we're going to survive, right? That's in biology. Um, the reality is that we're all going to die, right? Sorry to say, if you didn't figure that out, you're going to die. So when you can incorporate that in your daily life, right? So safety is not actually required. You want to be safe enough. You can decrease your chance of dying today, right now, but you're
Hmm.
still going to die, right? And when you know that and you feel that, then you don't need to feel as safe as you think, or you actually feel safe that you're part of this beautiful world
Hmm.
together. We talk about this in our research. We talk
Hmm.
about oneness and non-duality. I was listening to so we have Chris Rager, our colleague that also does research. We have digital research free. You can check on our website at digitalwellness.com. And we also have a Patreon page, right? So I was listening to one of those research talking about paradox, right? So we live in a very paradoxical, complicated world. And Chris's reset talks about we don't need to have the certainty. We can live in uncertainty, ambiguity, and
Mm.
feel safe, right? And I think to answer, and thanks for the audience for the question, to answer, can you feel safe in a stressful environment? Yes. And it's a mindset, right? So you know that there is always a chance that I might not survive this moment or this. And it might
Yeah.
be not even external. You might just have something in your body that doesn't work and you die like this. That's
Hmm.
happened, to me, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend, last night, and one of our high school friend, one of his children died, right?
Mm.
Okay. Those are things that happen. It's very sad. It's very complicated. You have to deal with grief, right? But if we know that that happens to humanity in general, if we know that we're going to die, if we accept that and incorporate that, it makes every moment more purposeful and meaningful, actually.
Memento mori,
Yes.
right? Reminding yourself constantly that we are only for a finite period of time on this planet, right? I think it's easy for people to just get, stuck in the motions of the day to day grind and kind of forget. And I've heard this a few times lately, but the older you get, the more that time actually seems to pass by faster. And there is a uh, neur- neurological explanation for this. I have to look it up again, but um, essentially, it's important, it's imperative that people make use of every minute of their life, right? Because you don't know which day will be your last. And I think you put that really, really well, that that can create a sense of urgency without fear
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
by reminding yourself of the finitude of this existence that we have here. Super
Yeah.
important.
And it like you said, it's without fear because we can appreciate what we have
Yeah.
without thinking of, well, what is that like? Is there an afterlife? Is it complicated? No,
Yeah.
it's we're right here, right now, right?
I mean, the best analogy that sort of defeated the fear of death for me, and I heard this. I'm not sure if anybody in the audience watches jujitsu, but there's a big, a very famous jujitsu trainer named John Danaher, and he actually he's very well known in the world of jujitsu. And he, funnily enough, he got a PhD in philosophy from Columbia, so he's a very smart guy. And then he decided to go into martial arts after that. But he was on a podcast, and I heard him say, and perhaps it's not his original idea, but I heard it from him. Um, Before you were born, right? There was a moment before you were born, and there was nothingness, and you don't really remember that. When you die, there's nothingness, right? So it's akin to actually before you were born, right? This feeling of not being there, of just not existing. All that you're familiar with is existing, right? But before you were born, right, there was also moments of non-existence. And that's not something that is coupled with the same fear response
Hmm.
as dying, right? Because dying is a loss of everything that you are familiar with. Whereas being born, perhaps there hadn't been anything before that could have been familiar to you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And I would add that it is difficult to grasp the idea of death, but it's very
Mm-hmm.
simple, like you said, right? It's just nothingness, and you are here now, and that's something, right? But
Mm-hmm.
also, when you die, the problem is the ego attachment, right? So Mark or Chris or whoever, uh,
Yeah.
I will not be there. Okay, well, the whole human race will not exist in some time. The whole Earth that we live on will disappear, right?
Ev-
But,
yes.
and it's actually much more exciting that that's happening, right? Because every second, every minute counts.
I think it is natural for human nature to want to prolong the life that they have on this planet, and I think this is why there's so many technologies that are being developed nowadays to prolong
Hmm.
human life. I am sure everyone's familiar with who Brian Johnson is, but he's doing the what is the longevity project? Do you know who this is, Christian? Brian Johnson.
No, not him specifically,
Brian
but
Johnson is,
there's so many longevity.
yeah, he's
Different
a famous,
years. Mhm.
like tech founder, millionaire, exited his company and decided to invest most of his money into trying to prolong his life, and he's become quite well known since over the last couple of years. And the guy, he's like in his 50s, but he looks like he's 30 or in his late 20s. Almost like he looks almost like he's from a sci-fi movie, right? But there's this desire to hold on, right, to what we have. And I almost think of this. There was this episode of The Twilight Zone where this guy, like this mob gangster, he wakes up and he's in this like casino, and he's going there, and every day he realizes that every day is just the same day that's like repeating, and he's got like this amazing buffet of food, like this casino, all this money, women, everything he wants, but it's just the same day that he's never growing older, right? Same day on repeat. And he thinks that he's gone to heaven because he's like died, right? And as it goes on, he's like, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. And he goes and finds this guy. He's like, I'm sick of being in heaven. Like, send me to the other place. I can't take it anymore. And the guy looks at him. He says, "Oh, you are in the other place already,
Mm.
right? You're already there, right? So hell is actually, right, just being in this perfect reality that's never ending, right? You never get older, and
Yeah,
you get tired of the same things, right?
yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is, this desire to stay young, this desire to keep, our jobs, our relationships, or this or that, and I think there is something to connection, community, and belonging, and that's great. Um, Yet we can prepare ourselves for this uncertainty and for the fact that everything we have, everyone we know will die. We might lose our relationships, we might lose our whatever it is. Yes, that is in essence some of the Stoic thinking, um, but it's also just general knowledge that there is books on dying and accepting that, and most people are kind of spending their weeks not thinking and not appreciating the fact that they're going to die.
Yeah,
And I think, and I write also in my happiness book that it is important to remember that, not because it's morbid or anything, only because it makes every moment more precious.
100%, 100%. So Christian, did you have some things, some images that you wanted to share for
Yeah.
today's?
So for today, I looked at one book and a study, so we can
Mhm. Let's
briefly
pull
look
that
at.
up on the screen.
Yeah,
So what is this book? Supporting Psychological and Emotional Well-Being Among Entrepreneurs by Mohammed Nawaz Tunio. Is this a book that you've read, or have you had it?
I have not read it, unfortunately.
Hmm.
I just looked at the abstract in a few chapters, but mostly I wanted to share with the audience that
Hmm.
um, this is specifically for entrepreneurs, but can be
Hmm.
used for other contexts.
Hmm.
Uh, Emotional well-being is what we're talking about, like cultures that perform, right? We are entrepreneurs, Mark and myself, right? We
Oh
have
yeah,
built this company from sweat and tears and maybe blood. I don't know. And how can we remain sane? How can entrepreneurs remain sane? How can we have well-being while doing things that are almost impossible, right? Everyone knows the success rates of startups. 90% fail in 2 years, all that stuff. Okay. So this book caught my attention because it talks about exactly what we're talking about today. How can we conceive to have a work culture that is aligned with calmness and emotional safety and well-being, right? And what does
hmm,
that produce compared to other cultures that are based on fear, based on fear of performing, fear of missing out, all these things, right?
got it.
Um, so yeah, so there's a few interesting ideas in the book. I haven't read it, so if the audience actually picks it up and reads it, please feel free to give some feedback.
Hmm.
It came out last year, so it's quite recent, and just wanted to share that's one of the tools that I found.
Hmm.
The other study is more on education. If you would like to put that on the screen,
Yeah, let's put that on the screen, Alfredo. Perfect, thanks.
so we
Got
have
it.
2017 article that talks about specifically gifted student and their teachers, but I think
Hmm.
in education in general, and I'm also in the education in academia, and Chris is, and we're working with schools, and I think it's important to highlight, like, a culture of calm can be created when there's simple, effective, and
Hmm.
evidence-based strategy that are implemented in the classroom, right? So we are also doing advisory to schools. We have, the digital reset that is catered to parents, teachers, and also youth. We have the specific
Hmm.
youth focus calm practice, and they're evidence based, they're inexpensive, and we can use them, right? So this is a good article that talks about that. And of course, we want to have empathy, and well, I don't like the word empathy because it's not as good as compassion.
Yeah.
Um, and you can have empathy that's tied to ego or collective ego.
Hmm.
But beyond compassion, we can have mindfulness or presence and awareness, as awe is about all about awareness. And that strengthens the executive function. So that means the cognitive part of your brain. It means what we will classify as intelligence or what will make you good at school
Hmm.
is helped by calm. So
Interesting.
what will make you good at work is also helped by calm.
Very interesting.
And we talk about
Okay.
deep learning, right? So at awe, we're challenging people that are on their phones, gaming, too tied to text on social media, because that doesn't allow the calm mind for deep learning. It's very superficial learning. We talked about people not being able to read a full book, right? I didn't read the other book before, but I read 4 books in the last 4 weeks, right? So I'm able to
Wow.
read because my mind is calm. How many people around you do you know that can really read a book? Um, Fewer and fewer, right? And
Mm.
teachers are telling us that their students cannot read anymore.
Yeah. Again, they're perhaps capable of reading, but they're not capable of sustaining enough attention to read an entire book, right? And that's
Yeah.
something I spoke with a school director the other day who was telling me the same thing. He's like, um, my students, I don't even think they can watch a whole movie anymore. They
Yeah.
can't. They can't sit through a whole movie. He's like, he said, lunchtime, I see my students, and they're just all,
Yeah.
on their phones the entire time. He said the cafeteria has literally become like a library, right? It's quiet. It's quiet
Yeah.
because they're all on their phones. I'm hearing this. So if you work in education, you're watching this, this is a very pressing issue that you see amongst um, a lot of other schools, private schools, right? We're working with a lot of private schools right now to address this issue. So feel free to reach out if you're looking for any resources on how you can help improve your academic well-beings and socio-emotional well-being of your students as well.
Yeah. The social skills are also lacking. Um, People are physically together but don't know how to interact with each
Hmm.
other. And interaction now is watching some other content from some other creator, commenting
Yes,
on it or liking it or sharing it, and laughing at videos, but not laughing together with the person next to you, right? So people are watching their
exactly.
screen and laughing alone instead of making jokes with their buddies, right? That's a bit sad. I make
Yeah.
jokes with you, Mark. No,
Sorry, what did you say?
I said I make jokes with you. No,
Oh, all the time, all the time.
exactly.
Let's see.
Um, I
Maybe we
know.
have a question from the audience coming up.
I know we're both traveling today, guys. So this will be a little bit shorter than usual. But if
Hmm.
you have one last questions
Hmm.
on the chat, if
Hmm.
we also are live on Facebook today as well. So our Facebook audience, please chime in with any questions. And at the same time, any closing thoughts, Mark, or about how we can bring this calm work culture
Yeah,
and make sure that that enhance performance actually and not decrease
yeah.
it.
I mean, here's a practical. One is try the digital reset. At awedigitalwellness.com, which we have offer free ones every Tuesday at what is it, 12 p.m. EST.
Yep,
Um, and no, it's 9:30
it's
EST.
12 p.m. EST on
Now
Tuesdays.
it's now it's
Yeah,
12 p.m. EST. Okay. Got it. So other than that, I would give one homework piece of homework, which I gave a client as well today. Choose one thing this week, one decision you have to make, uh, and allow yourself to make it imperfectly without all the information. Because by doing that, you're going to teach yourself that you're able to sit with the consequences of perhaps making a non-perfect decision. And two, you're not going to fuel the doubt, right? The thinking about whether that was the right decision or not. You're teaching yourself to act also under uncertainty. Everybody feels uncertainty. Everybody feels a degree of not being safe, right? But there's people who act and there's people who don't. So that would be my one piece of homework for people this week.
I like it, and it's giving yourself permission. And we're talking also about organizations. Giving your organization the ability to make things imperfectly,
Correct.
right? To even have a positive outlook on someone who makes a mistake or who does something imperfectly, and saying that's okay, that's progress, that's moving forward.
Yes.
And so anyone that's listening that wants to do this week, um, good suggestion, Mark.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This was fun.
So yeah, I know you have a flight to catch. I also have to be moving soon. See you next week, Mark. We have some guests that we'll be having in February.
Hmm.
Next week, why energy management beats time management.
Mm.
See you on that stream on any platform. Reach out to us between here and then on all our social medias that are there: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, and LinkedIn. So
Awesome.
thanks again, Mark. Safe
Thanks so
travels
much.